I can look it up.
Yeah, let's have a look.
But I'm not going to, because I'm going to just require this of you. And if you do not, then I may just have to arrest you under that offence.
Welcome back to the channel. Here we break down real encounters between the public and the police so you can clearly understand your rights, their duties, and where the limits are. Credit to Now Yorkshire for the footage. Be sure to check out his channel via the link below. In this clip, he's simply out walking and flying his drone, doing nothing illegal, but concerned members of the public misinterpret the situation and call the police. When the sergeant arrives, instead of calmly assessing the facts, he quickly leans into the complaints and treats a lawful activity as if it needs investigating. What follows is a clear example of how things can escalate when officers rely on assumptions rather than a proper understanding of the law, leading to an unnecessary confrontation and a firm reality check.
What?
You allowed to use that?
What do you mean?
And you've got to have an operator's licence, haven't you?
Yeah?
Have you got it?
Yeah, of course I have.
You've got an operator's licence. Can you show it?
Operator's ID, it's called.
Huh?
Operator's ID, it's called.
Yes. You have to show it.
Why?
Because we're going to require it. Is it shown on the drone?
You're going to require it for what?
So if you're flying a drone,
Yeah.
which is not a toy,
Yeah.
or is over 250 grams, and I suggest that's probably not a toy if it's got a video thing on it.
249 gram.
So is that your... Yeah, but if it's over 250 grams,
Which is
not a toy,
Yeah.
and I suggest with all that, that's probably not a toy.
Yeah.
So it does have to have an operator's licence.
Correct.
So have you got your operator's licence and is it stamped on it?
Do you think that I don't have one?
No, it's got to be stamped on it and you've got to be able to show it to us.
Yeah, if you suspect me of a crime.
No, it's on the civil aviation stuff. So if you've got it and you're flying it, then you should be able to demonstrate your operator's ID and have it stamped on that.
And if you suspect me of a crime, then I have to show you.
That is the law.
No, it's not.
It is.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No.
The sergeant's insistence on seeing ID from the drone operator comes across as a clear overstep dressed up as a routine request. He suggests that simply asking gives him the right to see it, but that's not how his powers work. In the UK, officers can't require documents without a valid, clearly stated suspicion of an actual offense, and in this case, none is properly explained. Instead, it feels like he's trying to pressure the auditor into complying purely based on authority rather than law. It highlights a concerning gap in understanding, especially from a senior officer, and as the situation unfolds, you can see him struggling to justify a demand that doesn't hold up legally, which ultimately undermines his position.
Should we have a look?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Oh, fantastic. Have you got an operator's licence?
Yeah, of course I have, yeah.
Cool. Alright, it's got to be stamped on it.
Well,
it's got to be shown on
by
it.
you asking for it suggests that you think I've committed an offence.
There we go. There we go. Require, under the Air Traffic Management Unmanned Aircraft Act, we the powers require evidence of police pilot competency, operation registration.
Yeah, if you suspect that I've committed an offence.
No.
Yeah.
No, just if you're flying
You can't just take one point out of the legislation.
No, if you're flying it.
I'm not flying it.
That is the... No, but you were.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, we've had multiple people come in saying you were.
Well, I haven't.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I suspect you were.
You suspect I was?
Yes,
So
because I've had multiple people come in and say that you were.
So you suspect I was
and I
flying
don't think
the drone?
they just made that up.
Well, they did. So you suspect,
They did, okay.
So you suspect I was flying the drone and committing an offence?
No, I suspect you were flying the drone.
Yeah.
And also fly a drone, which is not a toy.
Yeah.
You do require the operator ID, which you haven't disputed. So I just need to see that it is, and it should be stamped on it.
But I don't have to tell you about it.
You do?
No, I don't.
Yes, because I can require to see that.
Under what law?
I just told you it's there.
What section?
I can look it up.
Yeah, let's have a look.
But I'm not going to, because I'm going to just require this of you. And if you do not, then I may just have to arrest you under that offence.
Well, if you're going to arrest me, then I'll give you it, but I will speak to my solicitor afterwards.
Fine.
Yeah.
Alright, so are you refusing to
No, I'm not
provide
refusing.
that? Okay, fantastic.
Just so you know, I've been through this before.
Yeah, I know.
Last time I got £3,500.
Okay.
Okay, so you still want to go down this route?
So I want to go down the route of proving that you're legally using that drone.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, but you need to show it to us. You need to show that proof that you are legally using
Under
that
what
drone.
law?
Under that law?
This law?
Yeah.
Police powers.
The sergeant tries to lean on the Air Traffic Management and Unmanned Aircraft Act, but it quickly falls apart because he's treating a third-party complaint as if it automatically creates reasonable suspicion. It doesn't. The law requires an officer to point to clear, objective grounds that an offense has actually taken place, and that's something he never properly establishes here. Instead of checking the legislation or clarifying his powers, he jumps straight to warning about arrest, which is a serious step and shouldn't be used to cover uncertainty or lack of knowledge. It ends up highlighting a bigger issue. When officers rely on pressure instead of law, it doesn't hold up, especially when the person they're dealing with understands their rights.
A-T-M-A-U. A-U-A, sorry. What does
It's
that
on
mean?
the CAA website as well. I checked that as well. You
Air
are
Traffic
required.
Management and Unmanned Aircraft Act.
Yeah. And what section?
I don't know what section. Well, we can look it up.
If you've got it, why don't you just show it to us?
So,
Fantastic. Cool. Yeah, we need to actually.
We want it to jot it down.
We need to see that it's linked to you and not just someone else's drone and just a code on it. We need to
I have
actually-
given you my details.
So we need to see that you've got an operator's ID.
Yeah.
And that it's the same as the one on the drone.
Yeah.
Okay. And we need to know that that operator's ID that you show us
Yeah.
is actually yours and
It
not
doesn't have
just
to be mine. It doesn't have to be mine.
It does. You
No, it
have
does
to
not.
have an operator's ID.
No, I don't.
Yes, you
The
do.
operator of the person who owns.
Operator's the drone.
Yeah, so there's a difference between the operator
Yes.
and the flyer. So there's a flyer ID and there's an operator ID.
No, you're operating it.
No.
Yeah, I think
No,
we're getting
no,
into a
no.
semantic
no,
argument
no.
there. You're
The-
operating it.
the
If you're-
operator
if
is
you're
the person that owns
controlling
it.
You're operating it at
The,
that
op-
point.
the operator is the person that owns it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be the owner.
No. Operator is the person that's responsible for the drone, owns the drone, and you have a flyer.
No.
Yes, there's two different things. A flyer ID, operator
Flyer
ID.
ID and operator ID are two separate things.
Exactly.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But an operator ID is from the person who's actually operating the drone at
No,
that time.
that's not true.
It's not the same as a flyer ID.
That's not true.
No, it's not.
Yes.
I suggest you read the legislation again, Sergeant. I've seen you on a video. last night.
After the threat of arrest pressures News Now Yorkshire into showing the operator ID, the sergeant then zeroes in on whether that ID is directly tied to the individual, which shows a clear misunderstanding of how Civil Aviation Authority rules actually work. The operator ID is linked to the registered owner of the drone for accountability, but it isn't required to match a person's physical ID in the way he's suggesting. Even after the ID is provided, he keeps pushing the point. And at that stage, it stops looking like a genuine regulatory check and more like an attempt to back up an earlier mistake rather than admit there was no solid legal basis to begin with, especially when the person they're dealing with understands their rights.
Because it was free. So the operator's ID is like £9,
Yeah.
£10 a year or
I
something.
used to have a drone. Like,
Yeah.
So I don't know everything.
Yeah.
But I once did have an operator's ID and a flyer's ID as well.
So you seem a bit nice to them because it was worrying me a bit, like he was going to
Yeah.
arrest me or something. But the flyer's ID, the operator's ID is on the top there, stuck on the top.
This one's your operator's,
This is the operator's ID for this drone.
and the bottom one is the.
No, it's the same thing. So it's one long.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sorry.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that is the drone.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a flyer's ID because it's 249 grams or less.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's fine.
So if
The
you
legislation is 200. It's got to be 250 grams or less, isn't it? And that's why DJI brought out the 249.
249, yeah.
Right,
And
okay.
just to protect your sergeant, if you go onto Google and put drone Ossick police station, you'll see me in the papers.
Yeah.
Right. I was arrested for this exact same thing.
Okay.
Right. And I was released without charge, and they paid me a lot of money for it. So just protect your sergeant a little bit. You know what I mean?
What?
Are we detained?
Just. I know obviously you've spoken to him.
Yeah.
Just have a quick chat. What are your intentions here?
Yeah, we're not detained, no.
No. But we've been called together.
Yeah.
Are you just auditors? You just.
But like I say, we've had.
We'll come here to do a little bit of storing it.
Come
Yeah.
to the station office, which is why regarding
And that's
that, which is
That's
why we've
it.
come out.
Okay. Do you come here often, or is it?
Never been here before.
But not if we think there's sort of offences around the drone use. This is why I have a conversation. But
That's why I asked
obviously
you
you're
earlier
saying-
if you thought I'd committed an
Okay,
offence.
No.
You said no.
But it's like in terms of flying it. Because
I
potentially
haven't
could
flown
be
it.
offence- And you're saying you haven't flown it.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
saying also that whatever's happened is you're going now. So that's the end.
That's the legislation.
If it's the, so if it is the bigger one,
Yeah.
No. If
what's the
drones being flown?
what's the legislation with
It should have
flying
an
it near
operator,
buildings?
which is shown is already on it.
So
What's that?
above 250
This is
grams.
just a question now.
I believe it's 150 metres residential.
Yeah.
Have you read this?
Random numbers stuck on it, obviously.
Carry on talking.
So this is for sub 250. So this is for my type of drone.
Yeah, that's right. I completely understand this bit.
Above, so it has to have an
if it-
operator's ID.
Yeah.
We're good. Required airspace has been
Yeah.
checked.
Yeah.
So we're clear. All Sierra rules being followed. We're all good, man. There's no
Yeah.
separation between uninvolved people because it's sub 250.
Yeah.
You know, we're fully good. We're fully good to fly, right? But if it's above 250, then you've got 150 metres away from buildings, 50 metres from people, uninvolved people. So like me and my friend, if we was together, we knew we was flying a drone, I could fly over him,
Yeah.
but these people just walking down the street,
You wouldn't. Yeah.
you won't be able to.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've had my drone, so I don't. I used to have the DJI Mavic
Yeah, yeah.
Pro 2,
All right, okay.
but it's been a while since I've had it.
Yeah.
So, and you're not using that for commercial.
Why would that matter? Because you need insurance.
Yeah.
which I have.
Okay. Cool. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, it's not commercial. It's social media. The insurance,
if you
the insurance
accidentally-
companies actually said you don't need it for social media. There was a bit of a debate, but I just got it just to be on the safe side.
But you're not getting paid, are you? At what point does it? Because then don't you need a commercial license?
Because I think, well, from what the insurance company told us,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's a bit of a debate with it,
Yeah.
and you guys might say something different, but what they told us, and to be on the safe side, I just got the insurance anyway, but what they told us is, unless you're like contracted, so like if you said to me, I want you to come to my house, take some pictures of my house, and we had a contract, there was an agreement of payment, that would be a commercial flight. But they said because you're just flying, you put the stuff onto YouTube and then it generates ad revenue.
Yeah.
It's not technically.
That's different. Yeah.
That's
I
what
get
they
that.
said.
Yeah.
But they might be wrong.
But if you actively said, look, I'm going to do some work for you with my drone, I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
X amount for this video.
Exactly
that's
that.
when
And there's a
you-
contract in place. Yeah.
Gotcha. And you've got insurance that covers you that if your drone was to hit someone,
So I've got third party insurance.
so you'd be fine for that.
Yeah. It's actually I've got two lots of insurance.
Yeah.
So I've got like damage cover.
To the drone.
Yeah. And I have third party insurance.
Which covers.
Yeah, but
injuries
and
or
it has to be.
damage to other things.
And I can't remember the code, but there's a certain. You know, like British standards.
Yeah.
It's not that, but there's something similar, and it's got to be to this standard.
Right. Okay.
You can't just get any type of insurance. I can't remember the number now, but there's a certain number you have to get. Can't for life of me think of it.
That's right.
But yeah, there's a certain number you have to get. Maybe like L720 or something like that. But you have to have that type of insurance for it to be covered for commercial flights.
Right. Okay.
And I think it has to be a certain amount of money as well. It's like $500,000 or $1 million or something. Third party cover. Yeah.
He pointed out where the operator's ID has to be the person who used it.
Yeah, we've bottomed that out.
You bottomed it out,
Yeah, but it doesn't have to
There
be.
you go.
Yeah, but it's got to be the person who does control the drone.
No.
As in, the owner of the
are you
drone
on
has got to have an operator ID.
Are you on a
Correct.
YPS?
Yes.
Correct.
Which is
Am
what
I?
the point I
But
got.
that doesn't have to be me.
Hey, come on,
That's,
then.
which is you clarify the point. But we should then
Tell us.
still be able to. But we still would need to confirm that operator ID is valid.
Yeah.
And linked to an actual person who's the operator rather than just some.
But I don't have to tell you who the operator is,
But we would need to confirm that drone.
And how would you
actually
confirm
has
that?
one. Well, we.
unless I told you who owns the drone.
Well,
because it's just a code.
unfortunately, Yeah. So. We would, because how would otherwise I would know that you've not just written some random digits
Exactly.
on a bit of
That's
paper,
why, if you suspect me of an offence,
which would be
yeah.
flying the drone
Yeah.
without an operator's ID.
Do you suspect that though?
Well, actually, I actually don't,
Right.
because I think you generally wouldn't be silly enough to do it, and you've
Exactly.
shown me there is a code
Exactly.
on it.
Yeah.
But of course, how can I?
But you would also
confirm
have to
that?
have reasonable suspicion. For instance,
The fact that you're not
no,
confirming
I'm
that
walking
code
down.
is valid,
I'm walking down the street.
or allow me to
I'm
see
walking
it
down
long
the street.
enough to-
I could have a weapon in my pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a whole
You don't
different
know.
thing.
You don't know unless you search me.
Yeah, but it's
no,
a
no.
whole
Let me
different
finish,
thing.
though. Let me
But
finish.
he did the same example earlier, and I said actually that's a bad example.
It's a very good
more
example.
Like the example of someone driving along.
No, 'cause there's
and the vehicle is
legislation.
Not,
As
yes,
in
there is
163.
legislation, but as an equivalent thing,
Yeah.
you're using a piece of machinery which should be registered.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a great example of smart thinking from News Now Yorkshire when he invites the second officer to get involved, giving him a chance to rein things in before it turns into a potential civil issue. He's pointing out an important reality. Detaining someone without solid legal grounds is a serious risk that can easily come back on the force. Meanwhile, the sergeant stays focused on trying to obtain personal details he's not entitled to, missing the key point that reasonable suspicion must be based on clear, specific evidence of an actual offense. That standard isn't optional, it's a firm legal requirement.
As in
there is
163.
legislation, but as an equivalent thing,
Yeah.
you're using a piece of machinery which should be registered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And I just want to check that the registration
And unless you
is
suspect
valid.
me of an offence, you cannot ask me to land it, and you cannot
And I
ask for the
didn't ask you
operator's
to land
ID.
it.
Those are the two things you
I
cannot
didn't
do.
ask you to land it.
I know you didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying those are the two things you can't do.
But I should
unless
be able
you
to
suspect
check
me of an
that
offence.
operator is valid.
If you suspect me of an offence.
No, because otherwise, how can I check that operator ID is valid? And if you won't show the operator ID is valid, then I
Yeah.
potentially suspect it's just a false operator ID.
Yeah.
We got anyone able
You see?
Yeah.
So me asking, it's like me stopping a driver on the road and going, "Can I see your driver license?" And they go, "I've got one, but I'm not going to show you it."
But Section 163 of the Road Traffic Act
And I
says
appreciate,
that they have to show you the ID.
that gives you specific powers.
Exactly.
But it's the same with this new legislation around the flying of the drones.
So there's two things there, right? Either I'm wrong and you're right, and you don't know the legislation, then you shouldn't come out. Or I'm right and you're wrong, and you don't know the legislation and you shouldn't come out.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
So I think you've deliberately goaded people.
No.
Because we had a lot of complaints. We had multiple people coming to the station.
And not one of you said hello. What's going on? Are you okay?
I came along after
you came out,
talking to people.
mate. You came out in force.
No,
you came out in force. Started talking about maybe arresting me.
No, that was later on in the conversation.
It was what? Sorry.
That was later on in the conversation.
Oh,
when I was
really?
saying I couldn't confirm that their idea is correct, which I still can't. But you said that you finished and you're going to move on. So I don't feel I need to sort of.
I didn't say I was finished. I was going to move on.
He did. Sorry.
He did. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have an issue with me flying the drone?
Yes.
What's the
if I
issue?
can't confirm the operator ID is correct and valid.
Right. Okay. And what legislation says that you can confirm that?
The sergeant keeps going in circles, demanding ID, ignoring the fact that his authority depends on being able to point to a clear offense, which he never actually identifies. It feels like the officers arrived assuming wrongdoing instead of assessing the situation properly, and instead of starting with a calm conversation, they led with pressure. When a supervisor can't clearly explain the rule they're trying to enforce, it weakens the entire interaction. This ties into something important. I've partnered with a platform called Underwatt, and the timing couldn't be better. Laws in the UK are changing fast, enforcement is increasing, and most people only realize what they don't know when they're already in a situation. Underwatt is built to fix that with over 100 interactive legal guides where you make decisions and see how they affect your legal position, plus StopBot, an AI focused on UK policing that clearly explains powers and thresholds. There's also a daily policing news feed and practical tools like a drone safety map, civil claim checker, and complaint generator. It's not about outrage, it's about staying informed and protected. It launches soon and you'll find the link in the description.
Well, so you could see someone throwing a piece of rubbish while they're flying a drone and say you've committed an offence and now I need your operator ID. It's any crime.
Yes, but the offence could be flying the drone without the operator ID.
But you have to have reasonable suspicion to suggest that I don't have an operator's ID.
Yes, but the fact that you're refusing to provide the operator's ID
before
is
you
not
ask.
suspicion.
Before you ask.
I did ask.
No, before you ask, you have to have reasonable suspicion of an offence. Before you ask.
Right.
Not after you ask, not during the conversation, not just because I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
Before you ask, reasonable suspicion, before you speak to the person. Unless they're driving a car, then you've got 163, we can stop anyone for no reason.
It's just an example, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay.
And it's any offence though, any offence.
That's why I was getting a bit frustrated.
So you could see someone spit.
Yeah, say you started
an offence.
something completely different.
Yeah, no, because I was trying to give you the, I was saying be wise. I was just saying because you know that terminology, go wisely.
Okay. You were trying to film the school. I
No,
genuinely don't believe that.
Yeah.
But obviously the parents of they don't.
Yeah, fair enough.
They weren't thinking that. They were worried about their kids.
No, that's fair enough.
So I genuinely had a phone call and we had about 2 or 3 people coming to the station office, and that's just the ones I'm aware of.
Right.
So you probably got loads of different officers getting told loads of different things, and that's why they've all come out.
Well, I think we've calmed it down, aren't we? Anyway?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
sorry, I never cut your name.
Stuart.
It's what? Sorry. Stuart. Michael.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, well, I mean, we're not here to cause any bother with you guys. You know what I mean?
So,
we were just taking a look around.
I've got no issues with that. I do have issues around the potential offences around the drone stuff. Okay.
And what offence do you think it is?
Like I said, would be flying a drone without the operator.
But you've already told me that you believe I've got one.
Yeah.
So now you can't go with that now. If I set it off now, you couldn't go with that.
I haven't.
Okay.
Have I?
No, you haven't.
So
I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, and I haven't.
Okay.
All right. Because I can see you've got something on there.
Yeah.
And I think, having now conversed with you, that there would be an operator's ID linked to that. And I think if I dug into that, we would just find that.
Well, that's fair enough.
Okay. So yeah.
So there's no issue with me flying the drone now.
So there's no issue around flying the drone.
Correct.
But if officers come out who don't have that stuff,
Don't get this?
Expect you. Yeah, but I would expect you to be able to show the operator's ID, or start with that. Although that might be out of date.
No, this is what you guys use. So this.
When were you given that?
I printed this off from a YouTube channel called Geeks Varna.
Yeah, when?
Not long ago.
Because I think the legislation changed this summer, this autumn.
So I watch kind of his videos quite a lot.
No, you've got some extra powers.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I've got some extra powers, but this just lets you know that I'm airspace clear, following the rules, got the required insurance, and got an operator's ID.
Which is what I was asking.
So there'll be the questions that you might ask.
Oh yeah,
so
but the insurance thing is not required, is it?
If it's commercial, it's required. I do have insurance. I'm not sure if
okay, what you do it for commercial?
I'm not sure if it is commercial technically, but I do have insurance.
YouTube channel, I take
yeah.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it's. They said the insurance company said no, but you guys say yes. So it's like
I suppose it's a debate about what commercial and
exactly, yeah.
YouTube channel commercial and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why this.
So these are some links. So
this might actually be slightly out of date.
Maybe slightly, but I think you guys still use it. So West Midlands Police were handing these out,
right?
Because they work quite closely with the Channel Geeks Varna. So they were handing these out.
Do you mind if I?
Yeah, go for it, mate. Yeah. They were handing these out to people that were maybe committing an offence, but rather than getting them into trouble for it, they were giving them these leaflets.
Yeah.
So I got these printed out. I got one printed out so that if I'm flying the drone and I'm busy, I have to watch the drone, I have to make sure it's safe.
Yes, absolutely.
I get a bunch of officers come over and I could just go and then carry on.
Yeah.
They can read that and say, no worries, see you later. You know what I mean?
That's quite useful. I'd say I think it might be out of date, but it's quite useful. I'll check the links and I'll see if I can send.
Yeah, there might be. I mean, all the stuff on there is probably correct, but there might be some extra stuff.
There, say,
so like, for instance,
it was recently updated around the October stuff.
Yeah, there is things where you can land the drone if you suspect an offence. You can ask for
and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you have to suspect an offence though.
Yes.
The sergeant tries to flip the process on its head by suggesting that refusing to give ID somehow creates the grounds for him to act, which shows a clear misunderstanding of the law. In reality, reasonable suspicion of a specific offense has to come first before any demand for information can be made. Instead, he treats a lack of cooperation as if it's evidence in itself. News Now Yorkshire calmly shows that you can't create legal justification just because someone chooses not to provide details. And once that point becomes clear, the sergeant has no real option but to back off.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And like I say, it's any offence.
But then, as I said, the offence could be that I suspect he was flying the drone without the operator ID.
Exactly, yeah.
But we're now to the stage where
you don't suspect that.
But I'll be honest with you, at the point where I was first talking to you, because you were deliberately hiding that operator's ID,
yeah,
I did suspect that, which is why I was saying I could have done the arrest option, but obviously now you've shown it and you've now sort of had a bit more of a talk. My suspicion has gone.
Okay.
But at that point, believe me, I did suspect that. Alright?
Did you reasonably suspect that though?
Yeah, because I was having this conversation.
Was it reasonable to suspect that someone that you've never spoke to before, never met, never inspected the drone, doesn't have an operator's ID? Is that reasonable?
Yes.
No, it's not.
So the reason why I'd say...
It's not though, is it? Go on.
Right, strange. What was yeah, so that's say my suspicions, and obviously, you know, you were arguing, which made me think that you did not believe that you needed an operator ID for this drone.
Okay.
Obviously,
you do.
Further had this conversation, you actually do think you need an operator ID for this drone, which is not quite how you were coming across before. So that's where my suspicion came into before. And obviously, yeah, but...
So I did... So when I said before about the flyer's ID and everything,
yes.
So like this could be someone else's drone, for instance. This could be your drone.
And that bit I was wrong on, and it's obviously been clarified by yourself and my colleague there.
Yeah? Well, brilliant.
And while you were talking, I was quickly having a flick through, and yes, I did confirm that.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be mine, you know what I mean?
But I would still need to confirm that the Opera ID was valid for this drone, rather than just some random numbers on the drone. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So you could inspect the operator's ID, I suppose. You could take it and write it down, but then what would you do with it after that?
So you can check it on the CAA website.
Yeah, but you have to have the person's name.
Well, I'd have to have the person's name who has actually got that operator ID.
Right.
So yeah, person. But then.
And if I didn't know the name?
Well, then, if I suspected an offence, then I'd potentially arrest in order to try and confirm that name, because I thought that maybe that name was somebody who.
Because I know you were Stuart. Yeah. So you might be my friend Stuart. You say, oh yeah, you can borrow my drone, no problem.
Yeah.
But I might not know your last name. It might be acquaintances.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then what would you just put Stuart? That won't come up. I'm like, well, I don't know. It's called Stuart.
Yeah. Well, then that's potentially.
Well, then you would arrest me.
To arrest would be to investigate further to confirm that.
Seeing the officer in charge pull out his phone to check the law really highlights how unsure he is of his own powers. Someone in that position should already understand the rules they're trying to enforce, but instead it feels like he's figuring it out as he goes and hoping the person he's challenging won't question it. He clearly assumes the drone flight must be wrong, ignoring guidance that actually allows this kind of activity, while missing the bigger picture that the original complaint itself could fall into wasting police time under Section 5 of the Criminal Law Act 1967. Instead of addressing that, he focuses all his attention on someone acting within the law. When he eventually walks away, it says everything. There was never any solid basis for his approach in the first place. Situations like this show how quickly credibility is lost when officers rely on assumptions instead of facts, leaving a poor impression of how these encounters are handled. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to keep supporting the channel chooses not to provide details. And once that point becomes clear, the sergeant has no real option but to back off.